Yo, what's up, comrades? All right, we're here to talk about a bunch of random shenanigans. I don't know what else to call this. We got like an annual. We got like one issue of Wanda and Vision, or what is it called? Anyway, Wanda and Vision, which deals with something important, and then we get like a Daredevil little series, which has like Wolverine kind of in it, but it introduces Yuriko. Yuriko is a very important character because she becomes like a primary villain of the Wolverine specifically, but also of the X Men as time goes on. And this is like introduction. So we'll probably hit this. This is probably a pretty short video. There's not much to talk about. Like this, the X Men annual here, number 7, is just complete nonsense. It involves I think they're called the pop ups, whatever, which is like this race of like aliens that dealt with the Fantastic Four, and they're like super invincible. They can do whatever they want. They can morph, and they're just like wacky. They're like just wacky for wacky's sake. So the annual starts with the X-Men having like a baseball game, which they tend to do more often than not. And then this like spaceship comes down, and it's Galactus supposedly, and he demands the X Mansion. Charles tries to like side probe what's going on, gets like beat up pretty good for that, and then they just take the X Mansion and leave. And so then the X-Men start going around, and they just have interactions with various people, like Nick Fury. His eye patch gets stolen. Kazar, what's his name? No, it's Kazar from the Savage Land. His saber-tooth tiger, whose name is I don't remember. Anyway, Zaxxas or something. He gets kidnapped. Then they go to the Avengers Manor, where She-Hulk's hanging out. They get into a little battle with them and Iron Man, and then something, I think her like outfit gets stolen or something. Wackadoo. Stuff gets stolen from Doctor Strange. Oh yeah, it is She-Hulk's like uniform gets jacked. Good stuff. I think. And then something from, and then they find the pop-up guy. He's with the Hellfire Club. They fight over there with Shaw for a little bit, then they take off from there. What other kind of wackadoo stuff? Okay, yeah, then they finally catch the pop-up. They go through like Marvel headquarters, like the official Marvel comic headquarters in New York, and there's like shenanigans there. They finally catch him. They threaten him. They find out that this dude's on like a, what do you want to call it? Like a scavenger hunt, essentially. So him and his like group of people, after like the Fantastic Four, whoever like dealt with them, they had like they were trying to figure out who was going to lead their group, and he's like, well, I'm the dad, so it should be me. But we did a contest because people like they got used to like having freedom from like being in the United States or whatever, and on Earth in like the Fantastic Four and whatever. And so they had this game where they went around, each chose a different planet, and they got like cool stuff. And then all of a sudden, all these like space armies from all these different nations throughout like the universe come to like kill Pop-Up for like screwing with them or whatever. And then Lilandra is able to like calm him down because he's so ridiculous. But it ends up our Pop-Up boy here like loses, and then that's the end of the issue. So the fuck. Anyway, so we go to Wanda and Vision, who are at this point married, and they're no longer Avengers as far as I can remember at this era. I don't remember exactly when this stuff falls. But this is issue number 4, and it begins with this guy all in white heading to these mountains to meet with, I think her name's Bova. Bova, she's a cow who was evolved by the High Evolutionary to become like the supreme midwife and caretaker. And then they talk, and she has a story about a woman named Magdra, who is Magneto's like first wife, like all the way back in the day, and how she came here and she was pregnant. Remember, because like when he did his powers to fight back against the Nazis, or whatever, she got like very concerned for some reason, and then left. And then she came here, and Bova like helped her, and then she like said she left and said, take care of my children and don't ever let their father know anything. So Magneto was like, I'm the father. So he's like, I demand. And he like tears the place apart. And finally she tells her that it's Wanda and Pietro Maximoff. And then Bova tries to like warn the children. I don't know. She says, I must warn the children. And then I don't think anything comes of that. Anyway, so where are Pietro and Wanda at this time? So Pietro is married to Crystal, who is an Inhuman. He's on the moon. Yep. Fucking comics. And they just had a kid, Luna, who's named after the moon. Oh, precious. Anyway, so Wanda and Vision, who I said are married. Vision's like in a lot of hurt. Something happened to him. Anyway, they show up to meet their niece. And Vision can't like reconstitute his arm or whatever, but the healer here in the Inhumans like heals him. And then they have like a whole recollection. Not a recollection. They have a Peter's not like super happy about Vision being married to his sister because reasons. Oh, God, and Wanda is such a babe in this, man. Like whoever fucking drew this, like god damn, man. Like not fan servicey, but like that dude, she's hot as shit. Um, as she should be. And I feel like what's her name, the Olsen girl, the not the one, the baby of the twins, or not the baby of the twins' younger sister. She did a pretty good job. Like she's not super hot, but she's pretty cute. So I think she was a great cast for that, in my opinion. Anyway, so then they're meeting the nephew, and then finally Pieter comes to terms with like Vision being married to like his twin sister being married to like a fucking android, and he's like, all right, check this out. And then the guy in white shows up, and if you don't know who this is at this point, like, come on, it's Magneto, of course. So anyway, so he fights some Inhumans, and then like shenanigans, and he pulls off his like white stuff, and it's like, I'm Magneto, and then I have something to tell you. And then Quicksilver and Wanda immediately start attacking him. And because, it's like, oh, this guy, he tricked us into being Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and all this stuff. And so they go back and forth and they have like a little battle and everyone fights. And eventually like Wanda and Crystal, because Crystal has some sort of like elemental powers, I want to say. I'm not a big Inhuman person. The only reason I know anything about her is because of Pieter. Anyway, so they fight. And then eventually Magneto reveals that he is the grandfather of this child that he sees. He's like, I have a grandchild. And they're like, Nani desu ka? And then Wanda, who's a woman and is very emotional, she gets like very attached to Magneto all of a sudden because she's never had a father. And Pieter is like a little less, happy about the whole situation. Anyway, so it looks like Wanda and Magneto hug it out while he's holding like Luna, being very caring, and he talks about how he's trying to change his ways, not be such an evil asshole all the time. And then he tells like the story about their mother and what happened with that, and how like he was trying to defend the Jews versus the Nazi, like the literal National Socialist Party, like the Germans. And then that Magda got scared, and I'm pretty sure her name's Magda. And she ran off, and that he never realized he had a kid. And then like they kind of like forgive each other, and Wanda is like crying and super happy that she has a daddy again and whatnot. So it's very sweet. So that's an excellent issue, and it's very important because it sets up a lot of stuff in the future when it comes to them. And then I think they retconned it later, but for now, that is what we're going with. All right, so then we get into the Daredevil arc, which is just complete nonsensical bullshit. So we start off, and it's just like the Daredevil story. Daredevil's good. Wolverine's like smoking a stogie while like fighting people in a hospital for some reason. Like the fuck. And the rest of the Daredevil, there's some asshole. I don't know. I'm not going to go into the story too much. What we need to know is that it sets up that Kingpin's making a deal with this guy called like the Wind Warrior, or like, fuck, what was this guy's name? Anyway, he's some like Yakuza leader or like Japanese guy, of course, obviously. And so then Daredevil goes off and like fights some guys and trying to figure out, because somehow they're related. Like this thing Daredevil's trying to solve right now with like Bullseye got injured, and he's trying to get to Bullseye, and he kind of wants him dead because he killed Elektra, and just ask ChatGPT to give you a rundown of Daredevil in the 90s. Anyway, so Wolverine's helping him out, and they're just, we get the contrast of Daredevil and Wolverine, who are both kind of like more violent than typical, but Wolverine is like a real psychopath in this. Like there's none of the humanity. He's just like he's like smirking while he's like trying to kill dudes and like just being a badass. And we see that this Japanese guy who wears a mask the whole time, he wants to bring Bullseye back to Japan to like get him healed because he's pretty fucked up. And then Daredevil obviously wants to stop him. So, and there's another guy who's like around being involved. So then they roll out to like Wolverine and Daredevil finally figure out where like this whole like base of operations here is with like the Kingpin and this Japanese guy, and they just beat the shit out of these guys, right? And it's in like epic battle that goes on for multiple pages. It's pretty good. But at the same time, they were able to hold off long enough so that the boat starts to take off, where the Japanese warlord guy is like, he's taken off. And then this other guy who's got like a vendetta against... So there's more fighting, and this guy's a vendetta against Daredevil. Like, I can't remember what his deal is. Something about... some meaningless bullshit where it's like, oh, I had a real estate deal and Daredevil got in the way of it or something, so I'm going to shoot him right here. I have the chance. And right before he shoots Daredevil, Wolverine like cuts his back open. And this guy is like dying of terminal cancer or some bullshit anyway, so it's like whatever. So, but he doesn't kill Wolverine quite, even though Wolverine's like, I can kill him right now. And he's got like this psychopathic grin on him, and then he's like, I'm gonna go kill some more motherfuckers, and that's into Wolverine in this issue. So focusing back on Daredevil, he's like looking at the ship that's going away. He's like, I get up there and get fucking Bullseye right now, and I could kill that motherfucker and be done with that asshole and get revenge for Elektra and all that stuff. But this guy has a life, and even though he's gonna die soon, I need to see what I can to save his life. So like, he does the whole heroic thing or whatever. And so then Bullseye gets away, and then Daredevil, the guy wakes up in the hospital, and he's like, why'd you do that? And he's like, fuck you, that's why. then he goes and buys a ticket to Japan so he can chase down this guy, which leads us into the next issue. So it's 196 through 199. So that was just complete nonsense. Anyway, so we start off. Matt Murdock's talking about going to Japan. He's talking with his homie. Goddamn, what's this guy named? Philip or Paul? Polly? They just call each other buddies so much. I can't remember. Anyway, whatever his fucking name is. If you've seen the show, you know who I'm talking about. Sometimes I wish old friend, blah, 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 blah. Okay, anyway. So then he gets ready to go. Some guy tries to throw dynamite at him. Like the Daredevil comics are wild. Anyway, so he ends up in the hospital. He calls his homie. His homie comes and gets him. Let's see. So he still goes to Japan, and as soon as he's sitting at Japan, he's riding out to Japan. He's thinking about Elektra, thinking about with Bullseye, thinking about all that stuff happened. And then he heads into town. Immediately he gets attacked by like gangsters because Japan in the 90s is apparently like the Wild West. He eventually heads over to like the boat where Daredevil or where Bullseye was, and instead of Bullseye, he finds this like woman chained up to the ground. And so he rescues her, and then they like fight their way off the ship, and it's just fucking awesome Daredevil shit. Like Daredevil is usually pretty good. Not gonna lie, there's a lot of fighting. So they fight. He fights some more. He fights some more guys in the dark because he's blind. Then they jump into the water, him and this chica, and then they're like going. And this whole time, you have not seen her, like the left side of her face, which is like intriguing, right? Like it's always in shadow, or she's covering it, or whatever. They talk about Bullseye. They talk about how she they both want to get after this guy who took Bullseye, and she's trying to bring Bullseye back to get some sort of like chore from him or whatever. And then we finally find out this Japanese warlord's guy is named Darkwind, and we get his like backstory. He's a madman. He was like a kamikaze pilot during World War II, and he hates America, and he wants to get revenge on America for all this stuff or whatnot. And then they get attacked again, some more fighting. But it's over quick because the lady who owns like the Japanese restaurant, they're like holding out, and she like hits this guy in the back of the head with like a fucking like pan or something. Anyway, at that point, the woman reveals that she is a hideous monster because she has this like carving on her face in Japanese, and he's like, "I can't tell if you're ugly or not. I have no eyes. I cannot see." Which then takes us into the next issue, 198. And at some point, we find her name's Yuriko. I don't remember when that happens exactly, but it happens around here somewhere. And all right, so then Matt meets up with Yuriko like the next day. She finds out about his secret identity. They go to try to track down more information about the Dark Wind, and he even calls like his what's his name? The guy Ben. Is it Ben Franklin? I don't think it's Ben Franklin. Ben is a recurring character in a lot of Marvel stuff. He's like a premier investigative journalist that kind of comes up a lot because he's in New York, and a lot of guys in New York. So he comes up in Spider-Man, Daredevil. I don't think he comes much in the X-Men, the Avengers. He comes up, She-Hulk, a lot of stuff like that. Anyway, so they have a conversation about the Dark Wind, his kind of like crazy shit and whatnot, how he's related to the Yakuza. Then there's more fighting, and then more fighting. Then Yuriko and Matt take a journey on a bullet train off somewhere to, let's see. Oh, and then at some point, like Bullseye and Daredevil have like a symbiotic like connection mentally because they hate each other so much. Like the fuck. Anyway, they get to the mountains on the train, and then they are getting closer to this guy's like mountain hideout. Daredevil does some more fighting. Then they get back on the train, take it some more. Then they have to take like a ship to this island, and then Bullseye's like, "He's coming! I need a kill. I need my clothes. I need to get ready for this." We find out that Yuriko is upset at this guy. Well, she initially says because she's got like some shit going on where he's got like her lover is like engaged with him as like a servant, but he treats him really bad, and that she's concerned for him, so she wants to get this guy dead. And then we find out maybe in the next issue, like the real story. So anyway, so they dress up, they fight some more dudes. There's a lot more fighting going on. It's badass. She helps fighting with like a staff. He's getting like, they're both like beating the shit out of these guys. Let's see. Oh, and then this is where, so we find out that then she finally reveals that she's Darkwind's daughter. That's why she's marked up, and also that her brothers are working for him as well. Talk about killing people, how they should not kill people, and whatever. And then they like find a place in the mountains where they can like rest because it's like snowing and stuff, and they're like on this island, and it's up in the north of Japan, which is like very snowy. This takes us to the last issue here, which is 199. Matt wakes up. There's like an earthquake for some reason. They hide from that. Him and Bullseye have more sensing against each other, and then Bullseye's getting, he's been healed. He's like doing his thing where he's like can hit anything, any target, anytime he wants without like any effort whatsoever. And so then they're practicing that for a little bit, and then it's like, all right, time to go kill this motherfucker. And so then Matt goes out and immediately gets, it's time for more fighting. And then we meet this Kira guy. Kira guy's the boyfriend of Yuriko. And so Kira gets told that he's going to take Bullseye away from here to go do this task, and that Darkwind and his minions will take care of this whole thing. We also find out that Yuriko's brothers are all dead, I think, at this juncture. Yep. So then they get attacked by archers, and Matt, who is the Daredevil, he catches all the fucking arrows. He's like, oh yeah, boy, let's go. And then Bullseye and Darkwind get into like a little conversation before Bullseye like heads out to get out of there. Anyway, so then they get closer. Time for more fighting. Fight. Oh, Bullseye is out there with Kira, and then at some point Kira's like, I'm going to take you to do this thing, and Bullseye's like, that's funny. I don't feel like doing that shit. He's like, you owe our master or whatever, and he's like, shut the fuck up. And then he takes like this bottle of sake that he's drinking. I'm assuming sake. He's drinking and just like chucks it at Kira's head, knocking him off the boat. And then Bullseye starts rowing. He's like, God damn, I should have done that later. This is like really tough to row by myself. But he gets out there. There's some more earthquakes and shit because Japan, I guess. I know. Daredevil and just fights. Yuriko's like got his back. They fight some more. They're killing more. They fight. More earthquake. And then Matt gets knocked down by like a crumbling of the roof, and then Darkwind comes up to stab him, and he's trying to grab his like batons because he fights with batons to like fight off the katana sword, and then all of a sudden Darkwind goes like, ugh, and just collapses onto the ground, and then it's Yuriko. She's killed her own father to like reclaim the honor of her people or her clan or something, and then he's like, you saved my life, and she's like, I didn't do it for you. Like, okay. And then Kira swims back to shore, and he's like, oh, Yuriko, and they like hug, and he's like, I failed, and she's like, no, we're done with this bullshit, and she's going to take care of her boy, and then Daredevil's sitting there being like, God damn, Bullseye, I'll have to deal with that in a later issue that we will not talk about because it's not X-Men focused at all. And that wraps up this kind of like craziness. Mostly it's about the Yuriko and the Magneto thing because the annual is just like some crazy bullshit, but there you go. Go like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.